California's iconic Pacific Coast Highway, now a trail of burnt wreckage.
The Eaton fire is the second largest in size, but has proven the most fatal.
The Los Angeles wildfires have reached catastrophic levels, threatening the city like never before. With flames tearing through iconic neighborhoods and high-profile areas, the risk of complete destruction has surged by a staggering 400%. What began as a series of small fires has quickly spiraled out of control, fueled by extreme weather conditions, powerful winds, and dry terrain. How much destruction have the Los Angeles wildfires caused so far, and can authorities contain the crisis before it spirals even further? Wildfires rage in Los Angeles. Los Angeles, a city known for its iconic landmarks and vibrant neighborhoods, is currently fighting a catastrophic disaster, a series of wildfires tearing through the Southern California region. These fires, driven by the relentless Santa Ana winds, have created an unprecedented crisis that is wreaking havoc on communities across the area. The flames, fueled by dry conditions and gusty winds, have already consumed vast swaths of land with no sign of slowing down. As of now, at least 5 people have tragically lost their lives in the infernos, with many more injured. Among the casualties is the toll of destruction that has left over 2,000 structures in ruins. The Pacific Palisades, an area home to many well-known figures, is one of the hardest-hit regions, where thousands of residents have been forced to evacuate. In total, approximately 150,000 people are under mandatory evacuation orders, including those from the 0% contained fires raging in the Palisades, Eaton, Hearst, Lydia, and Woodley areas. The fires, which have now scorched over 26,000 acres of land, continue to spread uncontrollably. Authorities are working tirelessly to manage the situation, but with little success so far. In fact, officials have warned that these fires represent the big one, a term synonymous with the devastating earthquakes California is well versed in. And just like the earthquake that could shake the state to its core, these fires have done exactly that, shattering communities and claiming lives. Currently, the situation remains dire. The Palisades fire alone has consumed an estimated 15,800 acres and is still growing. With zero containment, firefighters continue to battle the flames under extremely challenging conditions. At the front lines, nearly 1,800 personnel are working around the clock to bring the blaze under control. Yet, with winds slightly subsiding, there remains little hope of containing the fire in the immediate future. In addition to the Palisades, the Eaton fire, also at 10,600 acres, remains similarly uncontrollable. With 5 fatalities reported in the Eaton fire and numerous injuries, the emotional and physical toll of this disaster is undeniable. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department has confirmed that multiple lives were claimed by the flames, including 2 reported earlier on Wednesday. UCLA hospitals have received dozens of patients suffering from severe injuries and smoke inhalation. The fires have not only claimed lives and homes, they have also threatened some of the city's most beloved landmarks. Celebrities like Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, and even Vice President Kamala Harris are among those with properties in the fire zones, adding a sense of urgency to the situation. Residents of the Hollywood Hills in Malibu, iconic locations known the world over, have been forced to flee as the fire creeps closer to their doors. For those living in these celebrity-packed enclaves, the evacuation orders are a reminder of the widespread devastation that knows no boundaries, sparing neither the rich nor the poor. Watching the situation, local authorities have declared a state of emergency, signaling the dire nature of the crisis. The fire's relentless advance has stretched emergency services to their limits, with many first responders working in grueling conditions to protect what they can. But the damage continues to mount. In this ever-evolving situation, the losses keep escalating, and the recovery seems further out of reach. But what exactly sparked this crisis? How did the situation escalate so quickly? There are some causes behind this rapid spread, and the early responses that tried to mitigate the damage before it spiraled out of control. Extreme weather feeds fires. The catastrophic wildfires ravaging Los Angeles are a product of several factors coming together under the most extreme of conditions. At the core of the disaster lies a perfect storm of dry vegetation, high winds, and an urban landscape that, despite modern infrastructure, remains highly vulnerable to fire. Earlier this week, the United States National Weather Service issued its highest alert for extreme fire conditions, warning that Los Angeles County would experience the worst possible fire weather from Tuesday through Thursday. With humidity levels at record lows and vegetation parched by the ongoing drought, the conditions were about as bad as it gets for wildfires, according to the experts. The lack of rain over the past few months has left the region's chaparral, eucalyptus trees, and other plant life highly flammable. Even beyond the natural vegetation, Los Angeles' urban landscape offers significant fuel for fires. Flammable materials like wooden telephone poles, power cables hanging precariously over roads, and homes built with wood for earthquake resilience have all contributed to the swift spread of the flames. It's a combination that has made containing the fire nearly impossible. Adding to this, the notorious Santa Ana winds, which blow from the east, have further exacerbated the situation. These winds, which carry dry desert air across the coastal mountains, have pushed the fire rapidly across hills and down through the canyons. These winds have become one of the key factors in the fire's unprecedented spread, turning small flames into raging infernos almost overnight. Scientists have long understood that wildfires in California are a year-round risk, but the severity of this fire season has shocked many. While major fires are typically associated with the summer months, recent years have shown that the season has lengthened, with the risk of wildfires becoming ever-present. Experts point to climate change as the primary cause, noting that the state's average temperature has risen by about 1 degree Celsius since 1980, creating even more favorable conditions for fire outbreaks. According to fire management expert Lyndon Pronto, the average number of days per year where vegetation is highly available for fire has doubled since the 1980s. He further notes that this compounding effect means that extreme fire behavior is now more common at unpredictable times of the year. What makes this particular fire season especially alarming is the timing. In a state accustomed to devastating wildfires, seeing such destruction in January, typically a cooler, wetter time of year, is surprising. Such destruction on this scale is not often seen in the month of January, said Pronto. The implications of this trend are staggering. With warmer temperatures and increasingly dry conditions, wildfires in California are no longer a seasonal threat. They are a constant, year-round concern. The combination of harsh weather, dry fuels, and a stretched water supply has made fighting these fires a monumental challenge. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power had taken precautionary measures before the windstorm, filling all available water tanks in the city, including 3 large 3.8 million-liter tanks located in the Pacific Palisades area. However, these resources were quickly exhausted by Wednesday morning as firefighters fought the blaze with limited water. Los Angeles Department of Water and Power Department Chief Janice Quinones explained that the area had experienced 4 times its normal water demand for over 15 hours. "We're fighting a wildfire with urban water systems, and that is really challenging," she said. The water shortage highlights another fundamental issue with wildfire management. The infrastructure simply isn't built to handle fires of this magnitude. Jay Lund, a professor at the University of California, Davis, pointed out that city water tanks are designed to handle localized fires, not widespread ones like the current blazes. "If everything catches fire at once, there's not going to be enough water for everybody," he said. The reality is that, in moments like these, there is no infrastructure capable of providing enough water to fight the flames across such a vast area, particularly when all systems are under stress simultaneously. As the fires raged on, the scale of destruction stretched the capacity of emergency services to their breaking point. Los Angeles City Fire Chief Kristen Crowley described the situation as pushing firefighting efforts to their maximum limits. To keep up with the demand for resources, crews were brought in from across the United States, working alongside local responders who were already exhausted. The firefighting personnel and equipment quickly became overwhelmed, as the blazes in the Pacific Palisades and Hearst areas were among the most destructive and difficult to contain. International support also began to pour in as the world watched in horror. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese reached out to U.S. President Joe Biden, offering solidarity and support. For many, this crisis echoed the severity of the deadly fires that have struck Australia in recent years, underscoring the global nature of the wildfire threat in a rapidly changing climate. The fire's early spread and intensity were a grim reminder of the unpredictable power of nature. But even more so, they underscored the deep challenges of fighting fires in a climate and landscape increasingly vulnerable to such destruction. So how exactly did this fire grow to such proportions? What steps were taken in the first hours to combat the raging flames? Evacuations from celeb neighborhoods. The destruction has touched iconic neighborhoods, including Hollywood Hills, Malibu, and Pacific Palisades, areas known not only for their beauty, but also for being home to some of the city's wealthiest residents and most prominent landmarks. The Palisades fire, which began its destructive path earlier this week, has been one of the most catastrophic. Originally reported at around 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, the fire rapidly grew to engulf more than 17,000 acres with 0% containment. It destroyed over 1,000 structures, including residential homes, businesses, and historical landmarks. Among the casualties were beloved local spots such as the Rosenthal wine tasting bar and patio in the Real Inn Malibu, both popular destinations along the Pacific Coast Highway. The flames tore through these landmarks, leaving behind only smoldering debris and heartbroken owners. "We are heartbroken and unsure what will be left," wrote the owners of the Real Inn, reflecting the shock felt by many in the community. But the destruction didn't stop at restaurants and shops. The fire also ravaged historical sites like the Will Rogers State Historic Park and the Topanga State Park, taking with it ranch houses and landmarks that were integral parts of Los Angeles' cultural fabric. Even the Pacific Palisades' iconic Gelson's Market wasn't spared. Its massive structure was reduced to rubble, leaving residents without access to a vital community hub. "We grieve this loss alongside the team members, customers, and neighbors," said Gelson's CEO Ryan Adams, acknowledging the deep impact this destruction has had on local families. As the fire stormed through these areas, mandatory evacuation orders were issued, affecting over 100,000 people. This included the residents of Pacific Palisades, a neighborhood notorious for its affluence, and the high-profile figures who call it home. The fires threatened to engulf their homes and forced many to flee, taking refuge in shelters or hotels as the flames licked closer. For those with homes in these high-risk zones, the prospect of losing everything felt painfully real. The chaotic scene of residents packing their belongings in haste and driving away under the threat of destruction captured the raw emotional toll of the disaster. Alongside Pacific Palisades, other areas, including Altadena and Silmar, also bore the brunt of the fires. The Eaton Fire, which broke out in the hills above Altadena, prompted the evacuation of 40,000 people. Like the Palisades fire, the Eaton Fire moved with alarming speed, consuming over 10,600 acres by Wednesday afternoon. Residents were forced to evacuate at a moment's notice, not knowing if their homes would still be standing upon their return. Further south, the Hearst Fire ravaged the Silmar neighborhood, burning over 850 acres and pushing emergency responders to their limits. This fire, too, had 0% containment, making it impossible for firefighters to establish control. In addition to these areas, other communities like Pasadena were also placed under high alert. The Sunset Fire, which ignited Wednesday evening near the Hollywood Bowl and Walk of Fame, caused the evacuation of more residents, further adding to the strain on local authorities. While the fire activity in the Hollywood Hills began to subside by Thursday, the immediate danger remained real for many, as more than 60 acres were charred in the area. The growing list of destroyed properties is staggering. Not only have residential homes been wiped out, but entire sectors of the community have been impacted. Pacific Palisades schools, including Marquez Elementary and Palisades Charter High School, were among the educational institutions devastated by the fire. Even the beloved Theater Palisades, a cultural landmark dating back to 1963, was reduced to ashes. As officials surveyed the wreckage, they reported that approximately 30% of the campus at Poly High School had been damaged. Meanwhile, the fire's damage to infrastructure has made an already dire situation even more complicated. Power lines have been destroyed, roads have been blocked by debris, and communication networks have been severely disrupted. In some areas, the lack of power has meant that emergency response teams have had to work without the usual resources, relying on backup generators and makeshift systems to communicate with one another. These infrastructure losses have exacerbated the difficulty of managing the fires, making it harder for local authorities to issue warnings or coordinate evacuations effectively. With evacuations still ongoing and the threat of further fires still looming, the question on everyone's mind is, how long will this devastation last and what will the recovery look like? Record-breaking damage. As the wildfires ravaging Los Angeles continue their devastating march through the city, the human toll is becoming painfully clear. The loss of 5 people and many more were injured as the fires tore through neighborhoods, leaving behind a wake of destruction. The pain felt by residents, firefighters, and first responders is immeasurable as entire communities are turned to ash. The emotional burden, especially for those living in the hardest hit areas, is overwhelming. For some, these fires have not only destroyed their homes, but also their sense of safety, peace, and identity. In the affluent neighborhoods of Pacific Palisades, Hollywood Hills, and Malibu, the impact of the fires has been particularly profound. These areas, home to some of the wealthiest individuals in the city and a host of A-list celebrities, have seen their homes reduced to smoldering rubble. What was once an idyllic environment of luxury, fame, and beauty is now a ghost town. Streets that were once bustling with life have been deserted, their towering mansions gone in the blink of an eye. The likes of John Goodman, Anthony Hopkins, Paris Hilton, Billy Crystal, Miles Teller, and Leighton Meester have seen their properties consumed by the flames, with little left behind but ash and memories. The stark reality of such losses is difficult to comprehend for those whose homes have long been symbols of success and security. These fires are not just an urban tragedy, they represent a profound personal loss for many of Hollywood's finest. Paris Hilton, known for her high-profile lifestyle, found herself facing an unimaginable loss as her Pacific Palisades estate fell victim to the blaze. Other prominent figures like Leonardo DiCaprio, Lady Gaga, and Quentin Tarantino have also been forced to evacuate their homes, with their properties placed at grave risk by the rapidly advancing fires. The famed Sunset Boulevard, one of the most iconic streets in the world, was hit hard by the Sunset Fire, with many of its historic buildings reduced to rubble. Even the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where the stars of yesteryear are immortalized in bronze, now faces the threat of destruction as fire rages through the area. But while the loss of property for these celebrities is staggering, the true human cost is not limited to the famous. The devastation of entire neighborhoods, affluent and working class alike, has left many with nothing but the clothes on their backs. The emotional toll is compounded by the realization that the rebuilding process will be long and uncertain. Homes like those of Ricki Lake, who shared heartbreaking photos of her Malibu home before the fire swept it away, exemplify the deep grief of those affected. In an Instagram post, the talk show host described the loss of her heaven on earth, a place where she had planned to grow old with her husband. Ricki Lake's emotional post, along with those of others in the affected areas, has helped humanize the crisis, offering a raw and personal glimpse into the lives of those who have lost everything. While the situation in these high-profile areas has garnered much media attention, the fire's impact reaches far beyond the Hollywood Hills. The fires have destroyed countless structures across the region, leaving tens of thousands of people displaced. In addition to the loss of life, the fires have left countless individuals and families without homes, many of whom are still waiting for a chance to return to what's left of their properties. Some are finding shelter in nearby hotels and community centers, while others are relying on the kindness of friends and family as they try to cope with the devastation. Firefighters, too, have borne a tremendous emotional burden. As they battle the flames, many of them have risked their lives, knowing that they may lose their own homes in the process. With almost 7,500 firefighters working around the clock to contain the fires, the stress on emergency services has been immense. The physical toll is evident, but the emotional strain on these men and women cannot be overlooked. They are not just fighting a fire, they are fighting for their communities, their families, and their futures. The aftermath of these fires will undoubtedly leave scars, both physical and emotional, that will take years to heal. As recovery efforts begin, it will be essential for the community to come together, to support those who have lost everything, and to rebuild not only homes, but the spirit of Los Angeles itself. Celebrities, too, despite the immense losses they have endured, have vowed to rebuild and support their communities. As Ricki Lake put it, "We will rise again." This resilience, coupled with the outpouring of support from both within and outside the celebrity world, will be crucial as Los Angeles begins to recover. The government is also playing its role in containing the fires, as well as in the measures being put in place to aid in the recovery and rebuilding process. The road ahead is long, but there is hope that the spirit of the community will see it through. The current updates. In the wake of the catastrophic wildfires that have swept through Los Angeles, the government's response has been swift, coordinated, and critical to the ongoing efforts to combat the flames and assist the affected communities. Firefighting efforts have intensified, as we said earlier, with over 7,500 firefighters working tirelessly to contain the spread of the blazes. Despite their best efforts, the largest fires remain stubbornly uncontained, and the situation continues to challenge even the most experienced firefighting teams. Federal support has been crucial, with the U.S. military contributing resources to the fight. 10 Navy helicopters, equipped with water delivery buckets, have been deployed from a naval base in San Diego, joining California and Nevada's Air National Guards, who have been dropping fire retardant on the worst-hit areas. Despite these significant resources, the erratic winds, reaching speeds of up to 75 miles per hour, have made firefighting extremely difficult. As one meteorologist put it, in the middle of 70 to 80 miles per hour wind, there's nothing that any human or any plane or any firefighter can do to stop that. But the winds are expected to gradually subside, providing some relief for firefighters. Even so, the damage caused by the rapid spread of the fires is immense, and it will take weeks, if not months, for containment efforts to fully take hold. As these heroic teams fight to regain control of the blazes, the long-term process of rebuilding has already begun to take shape. In a move to support the affected areas, President Biden approved a major disaster declaration for California, allowing residents to access immediate federal aid. The declaration paves the way for disaster relief funds and resources to be made available to the thousands of individuals who have lost their homes or are displaced by the fires. The Federal Emergency Management Agency has already granted fire management assistance funds to reimburse California for the firefighting efforts, recognizing the monumental costs involved in battling such widespread and destructive blazes. While this declaration provides a lifeline for residents and businesses, it remains a stopgap measure in the face of what will likely be years of recovery. The government's efforts to manage the fires have extended beyond the immediate containment and relief efforts. In Los Angeles, a series of emergency measures have been enacted to ensure public safety. The entire Angeles National Forest has been closed until January 15, and various fire restrictions have been imposed in surrounding areas. Meanwhile, the wildfire crisis has had a ripple effect across other sectors. Major events such as the Academy Awards nomination voting process have been delayed as a result of the fires, a rare acknowledgement of the scale of devastation. The Oscars voting deadline has been extended to January 14, and the nominations announcement has been pushed to January 19. Other events, including sports games and entertainment functions, have also been rescheduled or canceled due to safety concerns. The Los Angeles Kings home game against the Calgary Flames and the Los Angeles Lakers game were postponed, further illustrating the far-reaching consequences of this disaster. As for the recovery process, it will take time. For those who have lost everything, rebuilding will be a painstaking journey. Many communities that have already been shaken by the tragedy will need not only physical reconstruction, but also emotional healing. Support systems, both governmental and grassroots, are stepping in to provide aid, but the road ahead will be long and difficult. With the fires still burning, the full extent of the damage cannot yet be fully assessed, but the resilience of the people and the support of the government will play a crucial role in the years to come. The fires may have taken so much, but they can't take away the strength of Los Angeles. The road to recovery will be long, but the city will rebuild and people will stand together. The spirit of the community is stronger than the flames, and little by little, things will get better. Through this loss, we'll find hope, and from the ashes, a fresh start will emerge. Let's pray for the best for the suffering.